Welcome back. In the previous video, we learned some techniques used to separate heterogeneous mixture, such as filtration, decantation, magnetic separation, and sieving. Today we are going to learn some techniques used to separate the second type of mixture, homogeneous mixture. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to identify different techniques used to separate homogeneous mixtures. Explain the principle behind each technique. Give examples for each of techniques. Let us see the lesson. Separation of homogeneous mixture. Techniques commonly used to separate homogeneous mixture are distillation, evaporation, chromatography, and crystallization. Let us see one by one. The first one is simple distillation. What is distillation in general? Distillation is a technique used to separate mixture of liquid containing different boiling points. The principle is based on differences in boiling points of components. The component with lower boiling point vaporize first. The vapor is then condensed back to liquid and collected separately. There are two types of distillation. One is fractional distillation and the other is simple distillation. In simple distillation, the boiling point difference is about greater than 25 degrees centigrade. For example, by using simple distillation, we can separate ethanol from water. Let us see the visual representation of simple distillation. To conduct an experiment of simple distillation, we need different materials. This is the setup for simple distillation. This is iron stand. Here we have heating source. This is tripod on which wire gauze is placed. This is distillation flask that contains the mixture of water and ethanol. We have here stopper. This is thermometer used to control the temperature of the mixture. This is condenser used to condense back the vapor to liquid. To do this, it needs water. Send the water in this direction and out in this direction. We have also adapters or extension here. Then this is receiving flask that collect the liquid coming out from condenser. So in this experiment, yellow ball represents ethanol and the blue one represents water. Let us see how this works. When the mixture is heated by using heating source, the component of the mixture with less boiling point vaporize first and enter to the condenser. In this case, the ethanol vaporize first when the temperature of the mixture reaches 78 degrees centigrade because the boiling point of ethanol is 78 degrees centigrade. Then the vapor is entered to the condenser. Then there it gradually condensed back to liquid. Finally, it will be collected to this receiving flask. As the temperature increases, the water starts to boil. When the temperature reaches 100 degrees centigrade, here the water vaporizes and the vapor enter the condenser like this one. Then the vapor gradually condensed back to liquid and collected into the receiving flask like this one. So the principle is based on the boiling point difference of the components of the mixture. Ethanol has less boiling point, 78 degrees centigrade, whereas water has higher boiling point, 100 degrees centigrade. So ethanol vaporize first and enter condenser, there condensed back to liquid and collected into this receiving. As the temperature of the mixture reaches 100 degrees centigrade, water vaporize, enter to condenser, there condensed back to liquid and collected to receiving flask. By using this technique, we can separate ethanol from water. The second one is evaporation. What is evaporation? Evaporation is a technique used to separate liquids by heating, leaving behind the dissolved solids. The liquid or solvent that dissolves the solid changes into vapor, while the solid or solids remains. For example, by using evaporation techniques, we can get salt from water. Let us see the visual representation for this experiment. To conduct this experiment, we need different materials. The first one is heating source, 3 point on which evaporating dish will be placed. Then in the evaporating dish, we have mixture. In this case, we have salt solution. So for this experiment, this white ball represents salt and this blue represents water. Let us see what is going on. The water is heated and evaporated from the solution. Gradually, once the water is completely removed from the solution, finally we get salt crystals left on the evaporating dish. So by using these techniques, which means by using evaporation, we can separate salt from salt solution. The other is chromatography. What is chromatographic techniques in general? Chromatographic techniques is used to separate the components of mixture based on differential adsorption or partitioning of component between two phases. The first one is stationary phase. This can be solid or liquid. And the second one is mobile phase. This can be liquid or gases. Different compounds move at different speeds through stationary phase due to differences in their polarity, size, or solubility. By using this advantage, we can separate the components of mixture using chromatographic. Example, we can separate the components of ink pigments, the ink from black markers or pens by using chromatographic techniques. This ink has different colors. One is yellow, green, red, and blue. By chromatographic techniques, the yellow is eluted first and the blue is eluted last. Let us see this by using visual representation of one example of chromatographic techniques. In general, based on their mobile phase, chromatography is divided into two. One is liquid chromatography, the other is gas chromatography. So the simple technique for liquid chromatography is paper chromatography. Let us see this one. To conduct this experiment, we need different materials like chromatographic jar, this one, and solvents, which means mobile phase. Chromatographic paper, which is stationary phase. We need mixture. In this case, we have ink, which is applied on the chromatographic paper. So, if we add a small amount of solvent in chromatographic jar and put chromatographic paper on which ink is applied, the mobile phase is started moving up. So the components of the mixture have two options. One option is it needs to stay with stationary phase. The other option it needs to move with mobile phase. So the one which likes stationary phase need to stay with stationary phase. The one which like mobile phase need to move with mobile phase. So this property might be depend on their solubility, polarity, or their size. By taking this as an advantage, we can separate the components of this ink into their individual components. The other is crystallization. What is crystallization? Crystallization is a separation and purification techniques used to isolate a pure solid, which means solid is formed from a solution. How this is happened? When a hot saturated solution is cooled or solvent is evaporated, the solubility decreases and the pure substance form crystals, while impurities remains in solution. For example, this technique is used to purify different mixtures or separate the components of different mixture. For example, we can purify sugar from syrup by using crystallization techniques. Again, we can purify benzoic acid from its impurity by using crystallizations. Let us see the visual representation for crystallization. For this purpose, first we have to heat water. Then once water is heated, we add a small amount of crystals that is going to be purified. So once this water is heated, a small amount of sugar. This may contain impurities. Then both impurities and the sugar are completely dissolved in this heated water. Once they are completely dissolved, we remove this from the heating source and we let it to be cooled slowly. Then gradually the sugar crystals is formed in the solution while the impurities remains in the solution. Finally, once the pure crystals of sugar is formed, we can separate these crystals by using decantation or filtration. So let us summarize our lesson. In this lesson, we learned different techniques used to separate homogeneous mixture, such as distillation, evaporation, chromatography, and crystallization. Distillation is based on the principle of boiling point differences of components of mixture. So evaporation also depends on the vaporizing ability of component. The principle of chromatography is based on the ability of the components of the mixture to be partitioned between two phases, mobile phase and stationary phases. Principle of crystallization is based on the solubility of the crystals. So these advantages help us to separate the components of the mixture. So before concluding our lesson, let us try to answer this question. Which techniques A to D can be used to separate the following mixture 1 to 8? Let us see one by one. Perfume components. Perfume has different components. These components are volatile gas. This volatile gas has different boiling points, different polarity. So based on this one, we can use different techniques to separate the components of perfume. One is distillation, the other is chromatography. One type of chromatography used to separate such type of volatile compound is gas chromatography. The other is crude oil. Crude oil is a mixture of different hydrocarbons. These hydrocarbons has different boiling point. So this type of components are separated by using distillation. The best technique for this one is fractional distillation. Again, liquid air also contains mixture of different gases. These gases has different boiling point. So this can be separated by using distillation. The best technique is fractional distillation. Salt water. In this mixture, we have salt and water. Water can be vaporized. Salt cannot be vaporized. Because of this property, we can use distillation or evaporation. In salt water, salt can form crystals. Because of this, we can use crystallization. Sugar solution. In sugar solution, we have sugar and water. Sugar cannot be vaporized, water can be vaporized. For this of their property, we can use distillation or evaporation. Sugar can form crystals. Because of this property of sugar, we can use crystallization techniques to separate sugar from sugar solution. Wet clothes. When we wash our clothes, we put the clothes in the sun because to evaporate the water from the clothes. This is evaporation. plant pigment. The pigment may have different polarities, different size, different solubilities. Such type of the properties of components can be separated by using chromatographic techniques like paper chromatography. Dyes in ink. Ink has different colors. These colors may have different polarity, different size, and different solubility. This property of component can be treated by a technique called chromatographic techniques. So try for yourself and compare with these answers. Thank you for watching. Don't forget click to subscribe, share and like.